Hi everybody, my name is Bobby Cooper and I own E4OD.com. I have overhauled a few E4OD transmissions and several C6 transmissions prior to that. By no means am I an expert at the E4OD transmission, but with my website, my ebook, and these videos, I'm hoping that I can help some people save money when it comes to repairs or even transmission overhauls if they end up doing it themselves. If you're an automotive technician and you can do engines, you can do transmissions too. The electronic transmissions are a little more difficult because it involves sensors, computer, wiring, but it is possible with my ebook, some research, it can be done. Okay, so the reason for the video today is I'm going to narrate a video that was done for an E4OD transmission. They've got 3, 4, 5 of these videos. A couple guys out of, I think it's Russia, I'm not sure, and they're not in English, so I'm going to narrate them. But you can, to help in the future, you can go to download.com and download my free E4OD free tips ebook. It has a lot of information in it. I'm currently in the process of updating that too. So let's go ahead and see if I can get over to that video. Here it is. Assembly Part 1, E4OD transmission. Here he's cleaning the case. This is very critical that these any automatic transmission case be cleaned out extremely well, and it doesn't take much dirt at all. A large speck of dirt, you can get in a little check ball inside of a piston drum assembly in the transmission or a valve body. Those are called the webbing right there where he was cleaning out. Now he's using compressed air to blow out the solvent and any debris down toward the bottom of the trans. To the right here, that's the shifter sensor, manual lever position sensor, and that's the inside of the case. I believe this to be a 96 or 97 case because it has the latest updates. There he has the case horizontally. I usually have it this way until I have the output shaft snap ring on, then I flip it vertically. That's the that's the reverse piston assembly. That has 2 seals, one on the inside, one on the outside. And right here in that case there's a lube oil orifice for a low reverse inner race, one-way clutch inner race. That's the reverse piston return spring assembly. That's the 23 spring assembly, and that's the updated version. That's the most current one for the E4OD. There's your low reverse inner one-way clutch inner race. Then it gets put in and assembled inside. There's the lube oil orifice that he's showing right there. That's what goes it. He'll show it here in a second. It goes right there, right there. Yeah, right there. The big hole, not the small one. And that's at 10 o'clock in this case, but the case is switched over. It's normally at 5 o'clock position. They have a fixture they made to hold that lower inner race in. And I usually use 2 long cut-off bolts, screw them into the race, slide it in the case, put the 3 bolts in, take out the 2 slide bolts, and put all 5 in and torque them. Now back here, it's hard to see, but right there, the 2-piece bushing, that's standard, but there's a replacement performance part that you can have a single type bushing, and the lube hole has to be lined up in that. It's real critical, so it doesn't burn up that back end assembly. Here's the stamped reverse clutch drum, and that is the inner race. That has the look like balls in them, but they're not. They're rollers. The inner one-way clutch roller assembly, and that's what fits around the right there. It fits around the lower inner race. Right now he's going to put the pressure plate in and the snap ring. He has the pressure plate in right there. Now he's working on putting the snap ring in, which snap ring goes inside the case, which holds in the reverse clutch pack. On the back side of the reverse clutch pack is where the piston is, and that's pushed back by the 23 spring return spring assembly. This is the output shaft, park gear pawl right here, parking gear. That's the parking gear pawl. That's the lane there is going to be your reversed. Actually, I think it's the ring and hub gear that goes in. Yeah, that's the ring and hub gear, or hub. I'm sorry, hub and ring gear. And there's a thrust washer on the back side, or a bearing. I think it's a bearing on this one. Then there's a snap ring that goes right there. That's what he put on just now. He put the snap ring on right there, and now there'll be assembly. Yes, there's a snap ring. He's showing it to you right now. Then they're going to install the reverse planetary right there, and that looks like that's a 4-pinion. There's an updated version that's high performance or more performance 6-pinion steel. This looks like aluminum 4. It's not the heavy duty, it's more like medium duty. On the back side there's a 4-tab washer, and you can see there's 4 tabs on this one, so he'll use grease to hold both those, to hold the back tab washer on. He had put grease on it on one side to hold it to the planetary, oil on the other side for lubrication. And I usually shoot some transmission fluid here at this time with some squirt bottle just to lube it up, like they can see it's dripping. Now this side you're going to have a tab washer, 4-tab washer. He's putting grease, assembly lube actually, putting some assembly lube on that planetary so that the 4-tab washer will stay on it. There's the washer. It's a thrust washer. There's a snap ring that fits between that planetary and that hub, or the reverse drum. That's the sun gear. He's already put that in. This is usually put in assembly, and I think they show it in the book, but that's the sun shell, and in that shell there's a gear. If that gear doesn't have a snap ring on it, if you're doing an older transmission, you need to replace that gear because it's supposed to have the updated version that has the snap ring on the back side of the shell, the sun shell. So that's the that's the direct drum. I'm sorry, that's the forward. That's the forward drum. So that's a forward planetary that's in there, and that's going to have a bearing on the back side of the planetary, or this part here, and then inside there's a thrust washer. But this is the direct drum, and the forward drum goes on this, and then the band goes around the forward drum. And there's a, I think there's a bearing here too, except that the updated version of the sun shell has tabs on it, which keeps the direct drum off of the forward drum, and doesn't require a bearing in there anymore. So a washer or a bearing, I believe. So this is the intermediate drum here, and if I'm correct, I believe it's the intermediate. That's the intermediate one-way clutch. There's a roller clutch in here. And this is usually put in as an assembly from here all the way down to the sun shell, but they chose to stack it this way. It's done before like this, but you'll show the picture right there. They don't have that special tool to put together. I've actually used baling wire on a couple of transmissions that I've had to do in the past. It makes it a lot easier. There's ways to do it where you can put it all together, one assembly. That way you don't have any chances of things not being right. One thing I do is before I take a transmission apart, one of these E4ODs, I'll take a depth reading from this face here to the top of the coast clutch machine area, and then also one to that drum that they just installed. This is the band servo apply piston, and he'll be showing the band. You have to put the band in first. There's a strut over here, the band goes on right there, and then you can see where he's pushing the band right there. There's the piston, the apply piston right there, like that. If you have a transmission that has that servo apply piston and it's got a plate in there or a snap ring, throw it away because the updated version doesn't use it. This is the intermediate clutch pack. Supposed to put the thick intermediate pressure plate on the bottom and then stack them up from there. From the bottom plate, you put the friction to steel, and then you install the medium apply plate on top, which I believe that's the medium apply plate right there. Some of the No, I guess it's not. No, there's still a steel. Some of the clutch packs are using wave plates, actual wave plate and they provide cushion to the shifting on certain models. But there's not one in the intermediate. Here's the center support. You see the hub right here that has a roller bearing in it that was added in 1995, and that's a large thrust washer that's on the back side of that. There's two lubrication and ply holes that need to be lined up toward the bottom of the case because there's two bolts that go into that center support. There's two sealing rings on the back side of that also. I believe these are metal, cast iron, and they fit inside the intermediate drum. There's your roller bearing. If you change this hub gasket, there's a gasket behind that center support between the hub that looks like that lower race, but it's actually a hub, and that bearing inside. If you change that gasket and take these bolts out, they recommend that you replace those, but I usually just put blue, if I remember right, blue non-hardening Loctite. Here's your these should have Loctite, non-hardening Loctite on them too. The new bolts come with a sealing on it. So the center port is placed in, and if everything's lined up perfect, these are going to screw in by hand, and then they get torqued down to a proper torque. And I'm not sure what those are. This is the intermediate and overdrive clutch apply pistons. It's in a piston assembly. That is the intermediate return spring that sits on top of the center support, and there's a special way that those tabs are supposed to sit on that. You can see the wear marks on the case or on the center support, and then this gets to be put in, and there's one hole in the bottom of that, or one part of that assembly that he's pushing on right now that has to be lined at the bottom of the case, but you can't put the bolt hole in because you have to compress it, and you put the that's what they're doing. They're pushing on it right now with some kind of a force and jamming it. But I have a plate that fits across here, like here, and a jack screw, and another plate that goes on the piston, and you bolt the plate across, and you turn the jack screw, and it doesn't take much. You just want it just enough to get that snap ring in that holds that assembly in. Once you get that snap ring in, then you back it off and then that bolt hole will go in. But you need to make sure that before you take this tool that compresses this, before you take it off, make sure that that hole is lined up properly, because you may have to take out the snap ring and reposition it where it's proper. So now the snap ring's in there, and I think it's going to conclude this one of the video. But this is the overdrive piston right here. So your overdrive clutch stack goes right here, and there's a snap ring. You can see it. It's kind of shaky right there. There's a snap ring right there. That's the overdrive snap ring. And this is going to end here in a second. One thing, there's your apply hole for the overdrive clutch, and when it's all done and said incorrectly, you can screw that in by hand, torque it down, all three of these bolts to the proper spec. It looks like it's 8 to 12 foot-pounds, I think is what it says there. Into part one. They have I think they have 2 more videos for the assembly, part 2 and part 3. I just want to say a couple things. The next thing you'll be putting in will be the overdrive clutch assembly with the snap ring, then the center shaft, which goes down into the roller bearing in the center support, and then a coast clutch that fits on that, and then the pump. So it's not too much more that they have to do. So then of course it's the valve bodies that have to be installed, the 4 valve bodies and the extension housing cover. This has been Bobby Cooper, E4OD.com. Check out my website and the E4OD free tips ebook. Feel free to send questions, make comments below. Thank you.